Moonies. Oh, yeah, party peoples. Bobo here, BrassReel Brothers. Thanks for coming back and joining me for another episode of BrassReel Tonight, where we talk about everything that's coming out on the big screen, everything coming out at home to stream, and all the shenanigans going on behind the scenes. Yeah, nailed it again. Number 3, nailing it. Getting better every time. I swear I'm going to stop saying nail it. I just have to do that. It's fun. How's everybody's weekend? Doing well? I hope so. Anybody got any comments about anything, feel free to join in. The 0 of y'all watching. Oh, I had a good weekend. I didn't go see anything outside of Suicide Squad, but I did rewatch The Suicide Squad, excuse me. I did rewatch that 2 times on HBO Max after seeing it on Wednesday night, which also I did put my review out about that, guys. So if y'all are interested in watching that, check it out. Check out my review. It's on my channel. Also, if you guys get to watch this later on and you don't have any time to comment on the show or anything like that, if you have something you want me to talk about, send it to, what is it? Bobby at BrassReel. Oh, hang on. Let me see. What is it? Bobby at BrassReel.com. That's what it is. Yeah. Bobby at BrassReel.com. So send that to me if you have anything you want me to talk about, anything you got questions, or like I said, I want to get involved with the community more. So send it on my way, or send me something through the comments while I'm talking. One thing happened over the weekend, and I found this out this morning, but we had a death in the celebrity world. This lady had been around for decades. Markie Post. Now, if you weren't a kid from the 80s, you probably weren't familiar with her at a young age. You may have seen her and things, but she passed away over the weekend at age 70. Apparently, she had been battling with cancer for a while, and she had worked up until she had almost died. I think even just like a few months up until she died, she was still working. She wasn't quite the star that she was back in the day when she was on Night Court. And Night Court, that's the picture of her on the right there. Night Court is sort of how she got her fame, for sure. That's what got her really famous. But she was on other things like The Fall Guy. One of the things that I really loved her in that was hilarious was Something About Mary. That's her as the mom right there of Cameron Diaz. And that whole scene right there just cracks me up. Keith David as the dad. He's been in so many things, and he's a phenomenal actor, but his small role in this, just everything that comes out of his mouth makes me laugh. I'm not going to repeat it because it's all R-rated stuff, and I don't want to, get too vulgar on the show. But she passed away from cancer after a long battle. So rest in peace to her, to her family. Our condolences are sent to your friends, anybody that knew her. A lot of great things were really said about her too. So many people were saying how much of a kind soul she was. She was the type of person that baked cakes for you and things like that. Always a terrible loss when we lose anybody, especially if it's somebody that had a bigger influence through TV. Anybody, as if your past and your childhood. I remember, and this is no kidding, some of my earliest memories of watching TV that wasn't cartoons and wasn't anything, that a kid was supposed to be watching was probably Night Court. No kidding. I remember watching, and I don't remember her until later on, as far as once I started rewatching episodes and syndication. But when I was a kid watching Night Court, I remember there was the big bald guy, Bull. I remember there was the judge. I remember there was John Larroquette, who was like the lawyer guy, and the judge is here on the right. And then I remember Markie Post's character, because she was like the hot woman. She was always in there out of place of all the other guys that were all ragged, because the Night Court took place at night, and it was just weird civil courses, but it was the weirdest stuff in the world. And it was, I guess, kind of covering the idea of what New York and Los Angeles, sort of the nitty-gritty of those cities offer, and what the things that go on that you don't really hear about, but still, I guess, have to go to court. Anyways, I don't want to talk too long about that, but I did just want to say, rest in peace, Markie. You were awesome. You definitely made your stance in the industry. You were very well known. And yeah, rest in peace. Well, moving on to a little different, lighter heart stuff. So the Suicide Squad has been, now numbers are out for the entire thing, or at least for the weekend, and it's really low. Actually, at 26.5 million. And they're asking, well, is it because of Delta variant? I think that definitely has something to do with the box office sales a little. But how about the fact that you're releasing it for free on HBO Max? I mean, obviously you're not releasing it for free, but it's coming out on HBO Max for people that subscribe to HBO Max. And a lot of people, almost everybody I know, all my friends, my family, everybody subscribes to HBO Max because it's one of the best streaming platforms out there as far as the quality of content that's on there. Now, I know I talk about my apprehensions with like a lot of the DC movies that are being made for HBO Max straight to. That's a whole different topic, and that's a different little thing happening there. But I'm talking about just people that subscribe to HBO Max in general already. That was already out there. So they didn't make any new, I don't think they made any new like subscribers off of Suicide Squad. And even then, if people were wanting to watch it and they didn't have HBO Max, they could just do a 7-day free trial or whatever and watch it then. Look, I know that James Gunn has said that he doesn't really care about the streaming. And I can see that maybe he doesn't care about that because he knows he's always going to be able to make box office movies. But I know that he has to have something in his contract that he makes money off of the ticket sales after they hit a certain point. I would imagine he does. All these actors these days do. So why wouldn't the director that DC was, clamoring to get him since Marvel fired him for a second, or excuse me, Disney fired him for a second and then rehired him back. But, for a company that's clamoring to get him like that, I would automatically assume on the status that James Gunn is at this point, that he was like, yeah, let's do this. And also I want something off the back end. And of course, that's once it reaches a certain sales point. So the studios made their money and then he can start making some money off of it. Well, that ain't going to happen. Just like Scarlett Johansson's situation. The same thing with Emma Stone. It ain't going to happen, especially when it's on Disney Plus. And like I said, it's come out that it is literally the lowest one of all these movies coming out so far. And what did I say? I predicted this. Fast 9 won that it was not released on any streaming platform. It was only in theaters. And it was sort of the first one. Everybody was getting confident going back in the theaters. So that made a ton of money because it was the only way to see it. The Disney stuff has just been going declining. And those you had to actually pay for on Disney Premiere or Disney Plus. So if you had, and I've talked about this, but if you had Disney Plus and you wanted to watch those movies or do now, you can pay $30 on top of your $8.99 a month. Well, Suicide Squad now is at 26 million, which is the lowest one yet. And that one you didn't even have to pay extra for. You just could watch it. Now, yeah, you pay $14.99 a month for HBO Max, but still, come on. There ain't no money to be made there. What did you expect, guys? Especially with the Delta variant happening. But I honestly don't think that it would have made that much more money if the Delta variant wasn't an issue. And I don't talk about politics or anything like that on here. But when it's something that does affect films and things like that, and the Delta variant alone, acknowledging that it exists, that's not me getting it political because it's affecting everything else. That's just me talking about how it is affecting box office sales. However, I think if the Delta variant would have been an issue when F9 came out, we would have seen more of a drop in sales there. I don't think that the Delta variant made a big a deal on this movie because it was on HBO Max. They can't expect that. Godzilla versus Kong made money because it was a theatrical presentation. Everybody wants to go see those big monsters on the screen. So, especially the kids. And again, the timing that came out, that was really early on. That was before the summer. That was in March. So that was already like, yes, we have a true reason to go to the theater. Fast 9, you had a true reason to go to the theater because it's the only way you could see it. But with the Suicide Squad, now I'm a comic book advocate. I love these movies. I'm going to go to the theater. I planned to go to the theater even before I got the free screener pass. But it's not a super hot title like Spider-Man or anything in the Marvel. It is a bunch of underground characters, except for Harley Quinn now. She's gained popularity for sure. But there was no Joker in Suicide Squad. All the characters were unknowns. Not the actors, but the characters. So I just don't see a lot of people that had the option to watch it at home that were like, man, I got to see this on the big screen. Yeah, it was great on the big screen. I love it on the big screen. I think every movie's better on the big screen. But for families and things like that that had their kids, it's like, wait a minute, we can watch Suicide Squad. Awesome. We don't have to even pay any money. This is already in our budget to pay for HBO Max. So I just think, like, what did y'all expect, guys? Now I understand this is a trying time for everybody. Nobody is this is all every day is unprecedented. Like, so you can make a decision to release these films and do it a certain way, and you can be confident it's going to happen because 2 months we've had that it's been great and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden something happens and it changes people's perspective, and they stay at home. I mean, that's just the world we live in right now, and I just even when the theaters have been relatively packed, they still don't let you sit next to each other. At least the ones I've been to, unless it's your family. But if you like you buy a seat, then the 2 seats next to it are open. So they can't be full capacity anyways. And most of the time I've been, it's just never crazy full. F9 was full. I will say that. That one was pretty full. But other than that, it's never just crazy full, even when it's packed. But I saw Suicide Squad at a screener, so I don't really have anything to gauge it on what it felt like in there. I don't know. It's while I'm talking about this, I'm even just thinking, but it's still just so unprecedented every day. There's no way that they can really gauge anything, but you can't release it for free on HBO Max. You at least got to charge something for it, I think. But they have to stick with their guns. They already released that trailer early in the year saying everything's coming out on HBO. All Warner Brothers major releases are coming out on HBO Max. Which I mean, that's good for the fans and easy for the fans, but it's not good for the studios. I mean, they're losing money. And I think a lot of people forget if these studios, some people were like, well, maybe the movie theaters truly are on their way out. And I think in a certain way, they kind of are. I think they are going to become more like physical media in a sense, well, where it's going to be more of a nostalgic thing rather than going to the movies once a week, twice a week. You might be going once a month, once every 2 months. You know what I'm saying? Um, I think it'll get smaller in size because at the end of the day, everything costs money and they can't sustain that like crazy. So the way the movies work, and the only reason these $250 million blockbusters exist is because they have an outlet to release them and make a massive return on. So releasing in theaters, when you pay 10 to 15 bucks a ticket, pretty much, sometimes 8 something, depending if you go during the day or where you live. But for the most part, on average, it's between 10 to 15 bucks a person to get into the theater. And that's just how you make your money in movies. And that's what allows the studios to keep spending more money and making bigger movies because it's like, wow, Endgame, we pulled in over $1 billion at the box office. So Spider-Man Far From Home did the same, over $1 billion. So they were like, man, not only do we need to make something bigger and better, but we have the access to do it. We have the funds to do it. Well, if you're not bringing in those tickets, and you're making subscription money, and I mean subscription money like streaming money, HBO Max, Disney Plus, all that stuff, at some point, they have to change their business model and they can't spend $250 million on 4 pictures that come out this year because they're not making $1 billion in sales and streaming. You know what I mean? It just doesn't add up. So I hate that we're in this position. And I hate that a movie like Suicide Squad is the one that took the biggest hit, considering that it's a better movie than Jungle Cruise. It's definitely a better movie than F9. It's definitely not, to me, not reflective on the quality of the film. I do think that it could. I was talking about Buddy as Maniac. It was. I feel like there was some sort of ingredient missing in it. It was great, and I still give it an A, but it's not an A plus. There was just something missing, and even the reason it wasn't even like a B minus or a B plus is because it was just so well made, but the plot wasn't all that intriguing, and I just feel like it could have been a little longer and maybe a little more heartfelt. Even though it was heartfelt, I just feel like it needed a little more to be like this wow movie. It was almost wow. It was almost wow movie, but there was one little missing ingredient. but I can't tell you that anything was wrong with it, because it wasn't. It's not like I'm being like, if they would have done this instead of that, it would be better. It's not like that kind of case. It's just like I needed a little more of what I got, and there was just something missing from the plot or something. I don't know, but I don't think it deserved to be the one to take the hit. There's a lot more. You could tell a lot went into this film. And that's leading me to my next little thing. So Joel Kinnaman is in the news now, and this is crazy. He is being basically accused of rape from like 2018 or something like that. And it's a girl that he was dating for a while. And I'll actually show you a picture of her. And I can't, let me look at the article right here and I'll read it to you guys. I'll give you a little insight of what's actually going on. But apparently he raped her and all this stuff. And he's just like, where's this coming from? They were together for just a little while, but he's just now come out saying that he's got a temporary restraining on her, and he's coming out public with it, saying that she's tried to extort money from him. She's threatened him physically and threatened his family physically. So she's a Swedish Jamaican model. Her real name is Gabriella Magnusson, and she's accused him of raping her in 2018 while they were in New York. Says that she was intoxicated and they had a brief romantic relationship, and then he did all this stuff. And he said that no, it was all consensual. It always was, and it was only 2 encounters. And look, if you listen to what she's asking for, Joel says that she has vowed to smear him in public with what he says are fabricated, vile rumors, unless he agrees to a list of her demands that include money, Hollywood connections, and other assistant, including and another insistence, maybe this is written wrong, including another $400,000 for an apartment she wants, a Sports Illustrated photo shoot, and a verified Instagram page. All right. When you're not guilty of something, okay, when you literally, excuse me, let me take that back, are not guilty. When you really feel like somebody's done something wrong to you, you're not demanding movie rights and all these public things and a $400,000 apartment, a swimsuit, Sports Illustrated swimsuit model contract. That's completely fabricated. In fact, it's laughable. Not one time in there did she say anything about, I just want justice to be had, and I need to speak for other women that this has happened to. Not one time. Only thing that she says is, this is what I want, or I'm going to smear your name. He's got no history of anything. Look, I wasn't around these two. I don't know what actually happened, but I'm pretty sure that by the way that she's demanding all these things, that this has to be just super fake. I mean, I just laughed when I read that. Let me read this again. This is hilarious. She's vowed to smear if he doesn't pay her money and do all these things that she's wanting. She's vowed to smear his name in public with vile rumors. Unless she gets the money, she wants Hollywood connections and other assistance. Oh, there it is. Other assistance, including another $400,000 for an apartment and a Sports Illustrated photo shoot and a verified Instagram page. What a bitch. I mean, I'm sorry. That just doesn't, if I'm a cop investigating something and it's like, this doesn't sound like something a victim asks for. And now that he's filed a restraining order against her because she started threatening him physically, like if you're claiming that someone raped you, and especially from a woman's side, and you're a victim of a predator, a quote unquote predator, then you don't go back and try to like beat them up and try to threaten their family and stuff. You go to the cops, right? And you also don't send them ransom demands. To me, proof is in the pudding that she's making all this stuff up, especially since he's filed a public restraining order. Crazy, man, crazy people. So not only is Joel Kinnaman's Suicide Squad movie not doing like they wanted it to do because of poor decisions on the studio and COVID, I'm not going to, the pandemic, I'm not going to take away from that either. But now he's got this crazy broad on him. It's just funny to me. Look, I can't believe he did this to me. This is what I want. A Sports Illustrated career. I want $400,000 apartment. I want all this Hollywood connections. I mean, that's just like, oh, poor thing. Again, Let me make this clear. I don't know what happened. Something could have happened. But from the evidence I'm seeing, it seems like that she's just trying to get stuff out of him. So hopefully that's the case, and I hope it all gets thrown away, because the first time I ever saw Joel Kinnaman was in RoboCop, and I loved him in that. I personally can't say that I actually saw him so much as the character of Rick Flag that I knew from the comics. It's not that he does a bad job, but something about him, for me, I think I would have cast someone different to be Rick Flag. I understand that he's in this one because he was Rick Flag in the other one. But from the get-go, maybe I would have casted something different. But I tell you, I loved him in RoboCop. I thought he was awesome in the RoboCop remake. And they've said for a while now that they're supposed to be doing a sequel to that. Like, they've actually had one in the works for a long time, which I think would be cool. I honestly don't think there was anything wrong with that movie. I thought it was, in fact, I need to review that one. I reviewed the original RoboCop. I'm gonna do the remake coming up here soon. Sorry, I'm getting off topic there, but I just thought about that. I need to do that. So, anyways, good luck, Joel Kinnaman. I hope all this gets situated for you. All right, into some horror news. We've got some really cool stuff coming out. Now, look, Scream, arguably in the top, at least in the top 20 horror films of all time, but maybe in the top 10. And again, that's a lot. And there's a lot of subgenres of horror out there. But something about Scream, it just hit on all cylinders. It was just, it's in the zeitgeist of horror film. You know, people know Scream. Well, it's just come out that Wes Craven, the original Scream, is going to be releasing. Now, Wes Craven passed away, but it's going to be releasing on October 10th in theaters again, I guess, for one night. Now, I'm totally there, permitting that there's not some sort of crazy pandemic thing happening again. I'm totally there. Now, this is for a few reasons. I think it's one, to just give a little homage to Wes and the influence he's had on the horror genre in general. And Scream is a super fun movie to watch with an audience. One of the best movies to watch with an audience, in my opinion. Now, what's really great is that we have Scream 5 coming out really soon. And this is a picture from Scream 5. This is just a screenshot. And I love the bloody mask like that. If you think about that, we've never had a bloody mask in the Scream movies. I mean, there's been blood on the victims, and there's been blood, but you know, I like the bloody Scream mask. That looks cool to me. And that movie's coming out at the beginning of next year, which, I mean, that's going to be dope. That's done by the same guys that did Ready or Not. I can never remember their names. They're weird names, but the fact that they're releasing this back on October 10th, I think is pretty cool. And I think that's clear that they're releasing this because the new Scream movie's coming out. They want to get a little buzz going for it, get people all hyped up again for it. And like I said, Scream is a theater movie. I love it. It's so much fun to watch with other people. So I hope that that's going to be fun, and I hope I get to go to it. I definitely would hate that if something happened with the pandemic again and theaters got shut down fully or something. Who knows? Because, I mean, October, even though it's right around the corner, so much happens within a month now, or even within a couple weeks. Things just change like crazy. So you never know what you're going to wake up to every morning. A little more horror news. We've got the American Horror Story poster that just got released, which is awesome. Now, if you guys don't know, it's called Double Feature. And it's going to be 2 stories in the same season. And this is the first time they've ever done this in the American Horror Story world. Kind of cool they're doing it for season 10. Like I said, it's called Double Feature, and it's like an alien and sea creature deal. Like they advertised at the beginning that it was going to be 1 story by sand and 1 story by sea. Well, at first I was thinking like beach and water. Well, that turns out to be sand being more like Roswell sand, like New Mexico sand, like alien sand. And now they've just released the titles for these 2 seasons, which part 1 is Red Tide, again, by sea. And then part 2 is Death Valley by sand. So there you go with the Death Valley. That's obviously the alien thing. And I love this picture right here. That's awesome. Alien wrestling with the sea monster or whatever. And the teasers you've seen for this and all the different pictures and posters you've seen have been super jacked up. I mean, they've been awesome, but I'm super excited about that. August 25th, and not to be confused with American Horror Stories, which there's American Horror Story and American Horror Stories, which just came out. American Horror Stories just came out about a month ago now. And that's like one shot episodes. It's an anthology episode, but they all kind of connect somehow or another into the world of American Horror Story, but they're just one parters, just kind of like watching Tales from the Crypt or something. So far, the first two were the best, in my opinion. The second one was kind of wacky and weird. This last one was really good up until the end, and then it just got, I don't know, it just got a little too much for me. It got too out there too quick. It's not that it was badly done. I'm just like any American Horror Story stuff. It's really about if you like it or not, if you like the plot, you know. So it's so far. If the next episode is still weird, I might be concerned that this might not get greenlit for a second season. If you would have told me all the episodes were going to be like the first two episodes, which were a two-parter, then I'd be super stoked. Like I really liked those first two episodes. It felt more like the American Horror Story, you know. And these other ones, I don't know. Especially the second episode, the second story, got a little goofy and just kind of what? Anyways, I don't know if you guys like giallo horror. If you guys are fans of giallo or know what giallo is, but giallo is horror for Italian. It's the Italian word for horror movies, and it's a specific style of Italian horror that's they always use this bright red blood. They always use sort of like an intriguing plot, but there's always some sort of killer that's on the loose, and it's like it's always something an intriguing storyline blended with a slasher all at the same time. It's always like that. A lot of people know Suspiria. That's a big famous one. Um, my favorite one that gets overlooked is Tenebrae. To me, that's one of the just hands down one of the best ones. And the famous directors are Dario Argento, Mario Bava, Luciano Fulci. There's just all kinds of these directors from back in the day, and they were very artistic with their visual sense. The colors were all over the place. Like I said, the gore is there, but it's kind of interesting because it's always this really like almost like the blood looks like red paint almost. It doesn't look like real blood, but for some reason it works. It just really works. Well, this new movie just got kind of released today, or not released, but they released a clip of it, and it's got my interest. It's called The Last Matinee. Definitely looks the clip looked really intriguing, and it was very, very true to the giallo that I'm familiar with, that I love, and I grew up with. So it's opening up in theaters right now, and kind of very limited theaters. And apparently, it's just ultra violent, extremely gory, and they call it a neo giallo slasher, which to me that just I'm all about it. I got to see this now. I'm super into giallo horror, and it's one of those things that's sort of like addictive. You really do find yourself getting slightly like trance into the giallo genre. The first one you'll see, you'll be kind of like, because there's this thing about giallo films that they always have. They can't decide if they want to make it an American movie or an Italian movie. So a lot of times it'll be English speaking throughout, but then it'll all of a sudden somebody will come in speaking Italian, but it'll be overdubbed in English. And then sometimes you'll see somebody speaking English and they're speaking English the whole time. And all of a sudden their mouth starts moving opposite of the words you start hearing. And it's like they're speaking Italian and in English, but then they overdub it all in English no matter what. So even if the person was speaking English, they overdub them. And at first you're like, this is silly, but it adds to this sort of charm that these giallo films have. And if you're not familiar with giallo, I highly recommend, my opinion, check out Tenebrae. It's the golden compass for giallo films. Like if you see Tenebrae, you'll be like, okay, you'll get the gist of what giallo is supposed to be like. And this new one, The Last Matinee, looks pretty good. And like I said, the trailers or the comments coming out for it, they're saying it's like not for the faint of heart. Like get ready to see some of that old school giallo that you like to see. And they really focused on practical effects with giallo movies. You know, I mean, a lot of these movies came out in the 70s, and in the 80s, but a lot of it between like 75 and 85. That was just a huge, and give or take a year or two because the influences sort of take time to seep in. But between 75 and 85, that's when Giallo was just really, really, really popular, rocking it out. So I'm excited to see this. It's coming out and released on demand and on video, I think on August 24th. Yep. August 24th is when that's going to be actually released on demand for you to watch. So right now it's in limited theaters. It's going to be kind of tough to see, but hopefully by the 24th, we'll all get to see it, especially even if it takes a little longer that to get to some streaming services. At least hopefully we'll have it by Halloween. Yeah. So any Giallo fans out there, look out for that one. That's a little treat for us all. So I was reading something here today that really, really got my interest. 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 Let me speak right there. So Quentin Tarantino just came out and said that if he were to do a Rambo film, which already I'm like, a Quentin Tarantino Rambo film. If he were to do a Rambo film, he would get Adam Driver to be John Rambo. All right. I'm in. How awesome would it be if Quentin Tarantino, now there is nothing to back this up whatsoever, but how awesome would it be if Quentin Tarantino's 10th film and his final directing film, because he said he's only going to do 10, even on the recent Joe Rogan podcast, he said after 10, he's out. Now I think he might write some stuff. He might produce stuff, but as far as his full on directing my babies, he said he's out after 10. And he's already in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was number 9. How awesome would it be to see Quentin do a Rambo movie? Now he said he would, if he did it, it would be First Blood. He's not trying to do the sequels or anything like that. And honestly, I got to say, I mean, Adam Driver is a big mofo. Look at this picture right here. That's hilarious. Found that online. I just had to put that up. But okay, look. Stallone, one of his best acting jobs is in First Blood. I think everybody can say that. And First Blood's not really an action movie. It has some action in it, but it's definitely more of a drama that in moments has some action. But it's really sad and it's a bummer. The movie is a straight up bummer, but I don't mean like I hate that movie. It's like it's a sad story, but it paints a lot of truth on. There's a lot of Vietnam vets who could relate with that. I mean, that movie was based off of a novel. So that story originally was never supposed to be Rambo making other movies and Rambo going on and just, being this living, breathing God. It was this story of a victimized soldier. Something like, and it was painting the picture on what happens to a lot of soldiers, especially then. So Adam Driver being the actor he is, I mean, Oscar worthy, in my opinion, I think that would be awesome. I mean, I say bring it on. Now, is it going to happen? Probably not. But would it be awesome to see Quentin give dialogue to somebody like Adam Driver? I mean, there's a huge dialogue scene at the end of Rambo, or excuse me, at the end of First Blood. Just imagine what Quentin would do with that. Now, I don't think it's going to happen ever. Anytime Quentin says, I would like to do this, it's like that Star Trek movie. It's never going to happen. It'd be awesome. And I think Quentin knows Star Trek left and right. And I think a lot of people don't realize that Quentin is not just, he doesn't just watch the type of movies that he makes. He loves everything. He loves cinema. The type of movie he makes are just the type of movies that he wanted to make. He felt like that's what Hollywood was missing. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't love Star Wars. That doesn't mean he doesn't love the Marvel movies here and there. He said he enjoys the hell out of them for what they are. But he also is a big on-screen guy. He loves to capture stuff in film. And I think there's something to be said for that. I think there is the true lost art that people are forgetting about sometimes with cinema. That's like, man, sometimes going on that venture and capturing things on film is what it's really all about. And I'm not trying to get off on Quentin or get off on a tangent, but it would be pretty awesome to see what he could do with Adam Driver's talents and with a script for Rambo. That would just be awesome, in my opinion. Imagine if it was produced by Stallone. Written, directed by Quentin Tarantino, produced by Stallone. That'd be badass. Ain't gonna happen though. All right, so moving on to a little gonna kind of shift gears in here and go into a little Marvel news, little Disney and Marvel news. Well, first off, the lawsuit thing ain't dying down with Disney. In fact, it's heating up. She's mad now, as she should be. They breached her contract. You know, there's nothing ever cool about somebody going back on their word. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what Disney did. And now this guy, Daniel Pastorelli or whatever it is, Petrocelli, he's saying that it's an orchestrated PR campaign. Now, look, I think this is funny to go back and forth between this. It looks like, I'm going to show these pictures right here. It looks like that he's like, oh, shit, here she comes. And then she's like, yeah, I'm coming for you. It even has like the same color trees and everything in the background. It's just like, looks like a scene out of a movie. He's saying it's an orchestrated PR campaign, which I don't believe. I think that that's stupid. What is she trying to get PR for? She's Scarlett Johansson. She's got Oscar buzz. She's got Oscar noms. She's helped create the Avengers franchise. She's doing fine. She ain't got nothing. She ain't reaching for straws here. She's trying to get what's owed to her. And I'm sorry, but she deserves it. And for him to call it a PR campaign, like I said, what does she need to PR? She ain't got to get her name out there anymore. She knows what's going on. She's Scarlett Johansson. Now, I'm not trying to sit here and be like, she's the greatest thing that ever hit Hollywood, but she's staked her claim. She doesn't have to do anything else like pull a PR campaign over a lawsuit. It's like, no, she's pulling this over because she's at a point in her career where she's finally, because a lot of people are career driven and they like to keep getting better. And at this point, she's finally in her career that she's like, I executive produced this film along with some other people. And I put my own money involved. And I'm going to finally, not only am I making money and getting the fame and recognition from my acting roles, but I'm actually going to start making producer money. And I'm going to be a part of the reason this film was made outside of just the acting. And I'm going to get the returns. And Disney was like, oh yeah, I know we agreed on that, but sorry. We're not going to do that because, it's a pandemic. And it's like, no. Y'all the ones that made the decision to go to Disney and put it on the platform. Marvel didn't do that. Disney did that. I always like to reiterate that and make that clear. She ain't mad at Marvel. She's mad at Disney. And Kevin Feige's on her side, and Kevin Feige's mad at Disney for all this other stuff, for a lot of these things now, for them like saying that they're all about diversity, but hindering it in certain demographics. I talked about that on one of my shows, but point I'm trying to make that is this guy is just, he's making them all look bad. Him and Bob Chapek, they're all trying to make it to be like, I can't believe that she wouldn't just take. Basically, what they're trying to ask her to do is her to take a hit for the team. Look, we made some poor decisions. We released it on Disney Premiere, and it really did affect our box office sales like hardcore. We shouldn't have done that. So do you mind if you just take the hit and we'll forget about our little agreement? And it's like, screw you, man. That's not the way this works. There's a guy that I listen to on the John Campea show, or Campea show. I always want to say that the right way, John Campea, because he's a great dude. I love watching his show. But he's got Robert Meyer Barnett on there. And one of his famous phrases that he says on all the time is that it ain't show friends, it's show business. And what Disney, which by the way, Disney has lived their whole career by that. Their whole creed has been, it ain't show friends, it's show business. Now they're expecting Scarlett Johansson to just act like it's show friends. And it ain't. It's show business. And you guys aren't holding up y'all's end of the bargain. And now they got this guy coming out here saying it's a PR campaign. Look at that guy. Look, he's just like, oh, shit. Here she comes. Anyways, just thought I'd touch on that for a second. And while we're talking about Marvel, that's segue into my other deal. We've got some updates that Deadpool 3 from Ryan Reynolds himself has said that it could be made next year. 70% of the chance that Deadpool 3 is starting production next year. That's great news. Now, I think that the proof has kind of been in the pudding since we've seen the whole Korg thing. I don't know if you guys remember when Korg and that commercial for Free Guy. It was Korg and Deadpool watching the trailer, but it's clear that him and Disney are doing their thing now. Like they got something rolling, especially if he's saying with his own words now that it might 70% chance that it's going to start production next year. That means that they got some stuff rolling with it. And he says that he's really excited about these two writers now coming onto it are from Bob's Burgers and Lizzie Molyneux and Wendy Molyneux. They're brought on as the writers for Deadpool 3, and apparently he's just super stoked about it. He's like, yeah, that the film writing process been great. We just go to it every day since they've had time, and it's not been under this super pressure. And that's the kind of the cool thing about the Deadpool movie is it's, as of right now, from what we know, it is in the MCU and they are bringing it in, but they're not making it like some of these other movies where major events tie in between films. I think Deadpool, the way it's going to work is he's going to kind of jump in and out and play in when he wants to or when they want him to. And he'll have his own films, which are going to be on 20th Century Studios label, which is owned by Disney. And it'll be an affiliation with Marvel, but they won't be Disney Marvel films, if that makes sense. And that might not make sense, but there is a difference. The Disney corporation is massive and they have all these different divisions and branches, and Disney oversees it all, but that doesn't mean that Disney puts the Disney name on it all the time. I mean, a lot of movies like back in the day, like Touchstone Pictures, that was owned by Disney. Disney did like Pretty Woman. Disney did Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but they did like The Rock, Armageddon, movies like that. That was Disney. They just under the label of Touchstone Pictures because they're going to make their money. They show friends, they show business. They don't just make kid stuff. That's just sort of their bread and butter, and that's their face. That's their image. So, and Ryan Reynolds has got the Free Guy movie now that's doing really well, or the reviews are doing really well on it. And I actually am really excited to see that. But between that, the Korg, Deadpool combination, and all that, and the trailer reaction thing happening, I think it's pretty clear that Deadpool is going to be up and running well. And I'm honestly really excited to see what Disney's going to do, how they're going to handle him being in the MCU, him being the only R-rated character in a PG-13 universe. I don't know. It's just going to be pretty cool in my opinion. And we all know that he's a heartthrob. So with heartthrobs being talked about, now let me just say with a grain of salt, this isn't confirmed by any way, but there are some rumors floating around that Gosling is joining the MCU for an undisclosed role. That's all we know. And Marvel's very secretive. And I do want to say that this was put out there by We Got It Covered. And We Got It Covered is not a reliable news source. Every now and then, though, they get something right. Every now and then. And this is starting to be reported on other sites as well, that Ryan Gosling has reportedly been in talks with Kevin Feige for some sort of undisclosed role in the MCU. Now, Kevin Feige talks with every actor because every actor wants to be in the MCU. Let's face it. But hey, is he too pretty or does he belong? I mean, we just got Christian Bale now in the MCU. I mean, it just keeps stacking up. The laundry list of who's who of actors just starts stacking up for the MCU. And it really is like they're just marking them off the list. I mean, the only reason I think somebody like Harrison Ford hadn't been there is because he's just like, I'm Han Solo, I'm Indiana Jones, I don't need to do that. But I mean, you're getting Michael Douglas, Robert Redford. Obviously, you got Sam Jackson in there, but I mean, there's just so many other that I'm totally Kurt Russell, and I'm still just missing out on so many major people that have William Hurt, and that's not even talking about the main actors. I'm talking about like who's who list of actors going to be in there. So maybe it's time, Ryan. I'm just curious to see what role they're going to have him tap for, because now, I mean, even Oscar Isaac has been joined for. He's going to be Moon Knight. Ethan Hawke is joined to be in that show. I mean, everybody's joining up for these Marvel shows now and the movies. So I'd like to see Ryan Gosling in there. He's one of those guys I'd say I kind of have a man crush on. I mean, The Notebook. Oh boy. I love that. That was one of those ones that I think that when I watch it, it's almost too sad because you're getting so excited. Yo, man, oh no, you're not together, and then she leaves you for another guy, and then the whole Alzheimer's thing. I mean, it was designed to just pull at your heartstrings. So that's one of the ones that I actually saw Ryan Gosling on first. But he's had a pretty good career after that. Blade Runner 2049, which I really liked. The Mobster Squad wasn't all that great. That was kind of a weird letdown. Drive, man, was probably the best movie of that year, but excellent movie. Drive is a phenomenal movie. The soundtrack is awesome, and it came out of nowhere. Seems like that he chooses a lot of great roles, or it seems like that he tries to be choosy with his roles in the sense that he doesn't want to just do something that's going to be forgotten. So hopefully that this will be one of those roles again. It'll just be in the MCU now. And with MCU talk still going on, this guy, Kang the Conqueror, now, more rumors talking about how he might be bringing in the X-Men. He will be responsible for creating spoilers in the MCU. Meaning what? I don't know what that means except for the X-Men. That's the only thing that I can think of. And it's basically him being not in the timekeeper. He is the picture of that statue that Loki's looking at. He is the main picture of the timekeepers you always see. And at the end of Loki, and I kept saying this the whole time, I was like, that dude looks like Kang, and not like the character of Kang in the comics, but I knew that Jonathan Majors was playing Kang, and I was like, that looks like Jonathan Majors. So I was thinking it was Kang. I ended up being right, which I love being right on that kind of stuff. I am a nerd, but now they're saying because he played He Who Remains or He That Still Remains or whatever, he was a version of Kang at the end of it. Apparently something happened with the Apocalypse movie that they're trying to connect that to now, that like he did something with Apocalypse in the comics, and maybe with a multiverse thing happening, who knows what they're going to pull from, because they do own the X-Men rights. So there's just some rumors out there right now that Kang could be the guy bringing in the X-Men. Like he might be the dude that's going to bring it all in. I don't know. It's a little too soon for me to agree with that. I do think it's time we get the X-Men in there though. Not right this second, but like, I mean, it's been over 10 years now, guys. In the comics, the X-Men and the Avengers are awesome together. And the X-Men were created in the 60s, so they weren't created right at the same time as some of the other guys, like Captain America and Thor and all that stuff. But it wasn't far behind. It was really close. And Wolverine's one of the most popular characters of all time, definitely on the screen. I think it's time we got to do something. And I do think that somebody like Kang, being who he is in the comics and somebody who messes with time, I do think it makes sense that he would bring the X-Men in. It would just be a matter of how. And for me, it would just be him messing with timelines like just happened at the end of Loki, to where like multiple verses are starting to get out of order. I don't think they're going to bring in the Fox X-Men, but I think that maybe something could happen to where a mutant gene now exists in the world. And that's where mutations, and that's where we get our mutants from. Or maybe he does something that it ignites a gene in certain people that turns that into a mutant gene. I don't think that mutants have always been there, and now we're just finding out about them. We've also got Wanda, who is technically Quicksilver is her brother, and he's technically a mutant. So, I mean, because Magneto's the father, and so who knows what they're going to do with any of that? Is the multiverse going to pull something into where now all of a sudden Wanda's going to have a father and his name's going to be Eric? You know, are we going to get that? I don't know. I think it is so hard to tell what's going to happen now. Only reason I knew that it was Kang and Loki, and the only reason I was sure of it, is because the statue just looked like Jonathan Majors. It just looked like him. And it fit the bill. It fit the fact that Kang messes with time. So I was like, all right, this is going to work. I could see this happening. And if he can alter time so much and keep re-altering it with variants, and next thing you know, it just boom, goes out of hand to where now there's just like 20 different alternate timelines, or who knows, 100 timelines, who knows? Multiverse. Maybe Kang's going to be it. Maybe Jonathan Majors is going to be the guy that brings the X-Men into the picture. I mean, it makes sense. And I do think that, like I've said, if he's not the next big villain, he might be the next pre-villain that's going to invite the next dude in. I'm personally hoping the next main guy is Galactus. I want Galactus to be the next big villain. I don't know how they're going to do him. If they're going to make him like a big dude with the big 2 fork horns. I don't know how he's going to look, but thus far, Marvel's made everything look pretty good, in my opinion. There might be something here and there that's kind of like, but for the most part, if they make a mistake, they correct the course quickly. So I didn't think they could make Thor look good, but he looked great. Kang, it looked a little campy in certain ways. Like when his costume was there at the very end, there were certain aspects of us like, I wish it was a little bit more. However, that was He Who Remains. That wasn't Kang the Conqueror we actually are going to be seeing. And even though He Who Remains got killed at the end of Loki, spoiler, he says, see you soon, because that was just a version. See what I did there? A version. Sorry, I'm an idiot. Well, I just hope that the X-Men can get in here soon because it's ready. I'm ready for y'all to get in here. I don't want them to rush it, and I don't think it'll even be next year or the year after that, but I just want them to start planting the seeds. What about you guys? Are y'all ready for the X-Men? Have you been ready for the X-Men? Fantastic Four is already happening. We know that's happening. And for that to happen, connected with Kang, Quantumania, the new Ant-Man and Wasp movie that's coming out, I think that there's something to be said for like the X-Men are brewing. You know what I mean? I feel the boil starting to happen with the X-Men. It's not boiling over to where it's going to hit yet, but I feel it wanting to make its way in. You got to. Can you imagine what's going to happen when we get an X-Men, MCU X-Men trailer? That might be the next big thing that people are excited about. And I'm not really sure how they're going to do it. I mean, do you think they're going to do single movies? Are they going to incorporate the X-Men here and there within other movies that are just happening in the MCU? Like, the way Spider-Man was introduced and Black Panther was introduced. They were introduced in other people's movies. Scarlett Johansson was introduced in Iron. You know what I mean? Like, are they going to do that, or are they going to just straight up have an X-Men movie? I hope they build up individually somehow. Maybe even get their own movies and then build up to an actual X-Men movie like they did with the Avengers. The problem with that is I'm not sure how interesting all these, there's not a problem with that. Now people want to see it. So there's no problem with that, actually. People know who Magneto is. People know who Xavier is. People definitely know who Wolverine is. But honestly, I don't want to see Wolverine right off. I want to see Wolverine wait. I want to see, because Wolverine wasn't created right away in the X-Men. I want to see the original X-Men first and then have Wolverine come in a little later. Like, to me, that's the way it would work well. And I don't want to see them put modern heroes in there just because they're hot commodities. Like the way they did with Justice League and put Cyborg in there. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see Cyborg, who was a character that was created not even 20 years ago, maybe 20 years ago now, but in a movie with Wonder Woman, and it just doesn't work to me. Those characters weren't designed to be together like they are. And I guess they do work in some of the comics now, but those are all revisionist approach. Some of this is going to be some are saying this will be the first true representation of the X-Men because they changed so much in the other movies. Are we going to get a short Wolverine? Wolverine's not big in the comics. Wolverine's shorter than all of them. So, I mean, are we going to get just some brawny Wolverine dude that's just this badass? I mean, Hugh Jackman was a great Wolverine. Let's face it. He worked awesome. He really did. I don't think that anybody else sees anybody else but Hugh Jackman, or Wolverine is Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. They're synonymous, kind of. Not that he can't do other movies, because he does, but he was awesome as Wolverine. And we were all like, wait, he's too tall, until we saw the movie and we loved it. So are they going to go that opposite direction? I don't want to see Gambit right off. I don't want to see Cable or all that right off, but who knows? I'd like to see Jean Grey, Beast, Cyclops, Storm, I mean, I guess you could put Mystique in there somehow, but I don't need her to. The way they made her a good guy right off in the first X-Men movie, that's just not the way I remembered her in the comics. Maybe she started off as a good guy, but I feel like that she was more Magneto's girl the whole time. But anyways, I just hope they do a great job with it, and I hope it's soon enough. Not like tomorrow, but I hope it's soon enough. Well, that'll do it today, guys. Thank y'all so much for joining me. Another episode of BrassReel Tonight. And also, look for my reviews. Check out my Suicide Squad review. Just released that one. Great movie. Really enjoyed it. Got some things to say about it. A couple of negative things here and there, but nothing that dominates. It still was a very good movie. So check that out on my channel. And also, hit the like button if you enjoyed watching it. Tell everybody about this. Share it. I'm always here at 1 p.m. every day, Monday through Thursday. Fridays, I like to take a break to just do my reviews, focus on some other things, go to the theater, catch up on all of that. So anyways, thank you so much, guys. I do appreciate y'all. Also, if you hadn't done so already, hit that subscribe button so you can help us make it to the top, all the way to the top. And if you haven't done so already too, check out all of my videos on there. I'm talking like I got Halloween videos, I got karate videos, I got 2 Christmas videos, but I'm going to be getting the Halloween videos awesome coming up here soon. I'm actually already working on Halloween. So, hey, peace, guys. Love y'all with all my heart, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Yeah.